appreciate you spending the time with us, coming here for the day and doing all the things with your peers and with the rest of our team. But you had made a comment recently somewhere that got everyone's attention, and you were doing this at a Salesforce event, and you were talking about the pace of change and what's happening in the world, and I think this is sort of where we want to anchor a lot of our discussion this afternoon, is around just how fast things are changing in our world, in particular in financial services, but it's applicable to everybody out in the audience here, I would say. But you talked about how system change is easy, but business change is more difficult. And I'm probably messing up the quote, but I would love to really talk about that, the impact that you're seeing at Lincoln Financial and you more broadly in the industry about all the challenges there are around system and business change.
Yeah, so we were having a bunch of conversations. I mean, if any of you guys are going to any other tech conferences, everybody's talking about AI, right? And they're talking about change and processes. And I mean, they started it here today with don't create your processes around, AI, or put your AI on top of your current processes, create your processes around AI, which kind of leads into this same sort of thought and conversation. As you think about it, you need to change the processes, you need to change the way of thinking, and that's hard. I mean, we could bring in consultants, we could bring in people, and we could change our systems, which, I mean, isn't always easy either. But like our vendors, our systems, they're all changing fast. But getting everybody to come along for the ride is what's going to make it effective.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense, and you really have to start with the why, right? What is that North Star? We do a lot of that, obviously, at Seismic as well, because there's been a lot of change within our own organization, somewhat mirroring what's going on in the marketplace. But, I think it's, the challenge in financial services in particular, or any other regulated entity, is just that.
Yeah.
It's a regulated entity. And I've seen it, I know you've seen it and heard it as well. Compliance is critical, but it's also used as a crutch and an excuse and some other things as to let's just keep things the way that they are. What can you say about the needs to use compliance and the challenges that we've got as an opportunity in organizations?
Yeah, so here's where, I'm challenging my team, I'm challenging myself. It's really easy to look at all this new technology, look at everything that, Seismic's showing us or any of your other vendors are showing us and say, oh, but we can't do that because we're in FS, we're regulated. And I mean, even if you guys aren't in FS, I'm sure there is some statement that you tell yourself, right? Craig and I were talking and I was like, there's something that you say that makes you stay in what you think is your safe comfort zone, right? So saying I can't because it's compliance, pushing back, not listening, it allows me to stay in the box and the comfort zone that I feel good about. So, we were sort of talking about like, what is that other thing that you would say? And, and Craig's like, you've said it to my team many times, Kathi-Lyn. And I was like, yes, I have. I've said, we can't do that. It's compliance. We won't. But I think we need to get to the how can we or what if, and start asking those questions instead of naturally falling back on what is comfortable of compliance doesn't let us, because somebody else is going to figure out how to make it happen, and so then we'll be behind.
Yeah, the moat that each of us have had traditionally is probably not nearly as deep nor as wide as it once was because of new technology, new entrants into the market because of new technology, and any other, just the change again that is happening, in the market today is at rapid pace. And the phrase that I think we talked about the other day was pushing boundaries safely and responsibly.
Yes.
It is really, really important to push both internal teams and your external partners, for that matter, to think a little bit differently.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we were just talking about in the last session, I heard him talking about all the new compliance that's coming out and all of the great stuff with email blast and some of that. And I was instantly texting, and I was like, hey, we need to look at this. And, one of the guys on my team was like, yeah, but it means we have to retrain everybody. And I was like, but if it's worth it, we should do it, right? If it's worth it, we should. But it's really easy to push back on that. We finally have them using the system, so don't change it. If we don't change it, they're going to see something else, and they're going to want us to change it. So don't wait for them to ask us to change it.
Well, I think it's great that in real time you have, like, since we spoke this morning and now, you have that kind of change.
Yes.
when you're taking quick pictures of what the team upstairs was showing. I think that's great, and I think it's that mindset shift that really, pun intended, by the way, with the use of the word shift, but that mindset change or shift that has to happen organizationally to say, again, it's the why behind the change that we're making the change. This is where we need to go, type of thing. And again, if it's something as simple as, we just trained everybody, now we got to retrain them. If people sitting in this room think that this is, that the way that the industry is today is going to be that way for the foreseeable future, you're going to be learning a very valuable lesson soon. Because that's not the case. We are going to be talking about things 12 months from now when we're sitting on this stage again that are things that we really didn't think about. We weren't talking last year all that much about the word Claude or Anthropic, and I would imagine that every single person in this room has been at least toying with it. I know that we have at Seismic, and
Yep.
This industry is changing, and I'm not just talking about financial services. Obviously, it's the different types of technology tools, and we are going to need to not necessarily embrace for the sake of embracing, but we need to be aware and understand and learn at a very different pace than we ever have.
That's one of the big conversations we've been having, is really around how do you give people freedom to go try things, but also add guardrails, because I don't need everybody creating the same agents. I don't need everybody going in to Claude and creating something that creates a different story than the one that you said.
Yep.
So how do you do it in a manageable way, but not hinder progress? And that, I'm sure you guys are all talking about that, but that's a lot of it. And so that layer of trust is going to be really important.
Yeah. It is, and I think it's one of those double-edged swords when you get all these fancy new toys to play with. One, there's a cost impact to all of that, but two, it was said before in the session, the sake of using AI for the sake of using AI. I think we've already gone through that stage of the cool new thing to play with. Let's go and put it to use and talk about how strategy really becomes, you execute on the strategy that you've talked about, not let me go play with something new.
Right. I think having the larger strategy, tying it to your outcomes, is really the only thing that's going to make us successful. Also, just like you guys are doing here, is listening to your customers. So we're having a bunch of listening tours with our wholesalers to talk about what don't they like to do every day that maybe we could automate for them? Like, what do they just hate doing? And then, or what are the things they're hearing, or what are the things they're seeing? Interesting thing came up that was, and I'm still playing this in my head because I'm like, I don't even know how you solve this, what you do about it. But they were like, okay, so if I use Copilot to send you a message about my annuity, and then you as an advisor take that and take it in and put it in your Copilot, and you summarize it, and then you send it back out to the client, how do you make sure that the stuff that I really wanted you to know as a wholesaler, when it gets summarized again, because now this has gone through my AI to your AI, and then maybe the client's AI reads it, how do you make sure that you're pulling this path all the way through? One of the guys was put bullet points you want to make sure happen in white text that nobody else could read, but the agent would read. It was but there was a lot of sort of, I know that's crazy. It's not saying that's going to happen, but it was how do you make sure that the 5 things you need to know specific about Lincoln's product or any of you guys' products get through once it's gone through multiple layers of AI. And those are the type of things that only if you're talking to your sellers are going to come out. Because like, that was not in my head, I'll just tell you guys. And then one of the guys brought it up, and it's been in my head since last Thursday.
The white ink?
Yeah, the white ink of like, are they really going to do that? Like, what is happening, and how do I make sure that what they send is still compliant? Back to our original conversation.
Yes, compliance, not just as a crutch here, but as your guardrails that you need to abide by. The workarounds don't make a lot of sense, but listening to your customers, I'm glad you said that. I mean, it's an important, or your, I guess your customers or the people who you support, who ultimately, when you talk about the return on technology investment, that's where the rubber really hits the road. Are they, the way that I think historically we have talked about, does it make sense to keep doing more with the technology partners and platforms, in our case, our platform? We've talked a lot about sort of the recapturing of time as a key area of my return on that investment. I sit with customers all the time. I sat with one in particular last week who basically a chief information officer of one of our wealth clients, who basically told me he didn't care very much about the recapturing of time when it came to the return on his investment with us. And I said, that's interesting, tell me more. He said, well, if I give an advisor more time in their day, what do you think they're going to do, Craig? And
golf.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And which resonates well with me as someone who likes to do that. And ultimately, his line to me was, all I care about is, are they better at their job? Are they winning new customers on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, or annual basis? Are they gaining new share of wallet with those customers? That's what we care about. That's the return that we're looking for as well. And I find it interesting that it was the CIO who had historically in this organization cared about just making sure I'm more efficient.
Yeah.
Has flipped the script a little bit. And going back to something that Rob led off with, one of the board objectives, right? Growth. So to that end, right, how do we take enablement and make that especially in financial services, but for everybody in the room, taking that to be the lever that forces the strategy to become something we execute on well?
Yeah, so this is an area that, I think it's super important. And all of your IT partners, everybody's being asked now, what are the KPI? My IT agile teams won't do any work for me unless I can tell them a KPI anymore, because everybody's trying to be measured to a growth, right? And the KPIs, and I think we used to kind of get away with the time one, right? Like that was one where we were like, we can't prove the value, but we can say we gave time. I think you have to tie what you're doing to outcomes. I also think the other big one is, what are you not going to do because you're seeing the data, right? So if you run that data and you look at it and then somebody comes and asks you for something else, you should be able to say, I created this for you, something very similar for you 6 months ago, and 2 sellers have used it and nobody's opened it, right? Like this should allow you to prioritize, because we're not going to get more people. They're going to want more content. They're going to want more stuff. They're going to ask you more, but you should be able to use your data to push back. And so I think that's where we help drive growth too, is prioritization of requests, prioritization of what we're doing, because you can tie it to those growth outcomes. You should be looking at it and be able to say, I can tie my email blasts. I'll tell you guys in this room, email blasts from Seismic are opened twice the amount of email blasts from my MarTech platform, right? I can prove that, which makes it more valuable because they come directly from our sellers. So that is something where I can say this is worth the time and investment, and maybe you weigh those and you say, should we also be creating it in the MarTech platforms? I don't know. Like that's another conversation, but then you tie that down the funnel You take it all the way down. You see the predictive content that's then tied to the opportunity in Salesforce, and that's where you're going to tie your growth.
Yep. I really like that, especially the part where you just gave us that nice plug. Thank you. That wasn't in this.
It wasn't in there. It was just something
No.
I've been I've been researching it. We're trying to figure out where we should build our emails right now,
Yeah.
and so that's a new data point.
Thank you. But it also it plays to enablement, as a whole, right? Where it really does, where you're going to be able to start taking, some of this data like that to say,
Yep.
this is why, our distribution team is doing better today than it was 6 months ago or 12 months
Yes.
ago. And you're going to be able to go back and say that, my enablement function, right, whether it's our tech or some other part of the tech ecosystem that you're including there, is really helping to drive the execution of the strategy that you laid out. So I think that's really, really important, and something that I want to make sure that everybody leaves here with is that obviously the enablement is today and will continue to be that way. It's going to really give anyone who is customer facing all of the tools that they really need to be the best that they possibly can be for their customers or prospective customers.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about too about, some of us have been around long enough when you carried the bag into an office, right? And you picked up all your stuff and you carried your bag, and that was the most important thing at that time was getting in front of somebody so you could tell them their story, right? So you could tell them your story so that they would, in my world, so they repeat that story so that they sell a Lincoln Life or a Lincoln annuity product. Right? So that was something that was always critical. Now, when you look at the Gartner research, 70% of all buyers have made part of their buying decision before they ever talk to a human. So how do you make sure that your digital assets are helping inform that, right? I mean, how do you make sure that your digital bag that you have is now helping to inform those and ties to your website and ties to everything else you're doing, which is where your content's going to be critical.
Yep. No, I think that's great. And I'm looking here. We've only got a couple of minutes left. I think the idea of going back to something we talked about the other day. You've got everybody's favorite dashboard, right? Who are the top performers? Who are the not so top performers? And who is everyone in between? And the idea of being able to quantify improvement, right? And focusing on the, how do we level up everybody, right? The rising tide lifts all ships concept. You said something the other day about, I'm not focusing a lot on the top performers, which I've made my career focusing on top performers on my team a little bit. So you flipped the script on us a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about what your focus is when you're looking at the list of performers in the organization.
So in your role, you should be focused on the top performers.
Thank you.
In my role, I'm making an assumption that my top performers know how to do their job, and they don't care about my new process. They don't care about my new tool. They don't care what I'm doing because they've figured it out. And I'm talking about those 1%ers. I'm not talking about anybody kind of down. But those are not the guys that you're going to convince. Your B+ players that want to be A players, you're going to convince them, right? So that's your audience. And then you move down to the C players that want to become B players. Those A players, they're your North Star, and everybody wants to convince them, but they don't need you as much. I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but they don't, because they've already figured out their process. They've probably got 3 internals instead of 1 or a shared one. I mean, they get more love because they're your A guys. So I was just saying, if you can make these best practices repeatable and you target those guys that you can show level up, that's where we were focusing.
No, I think it's a great point, and I don't want any of the people in the room who are part of my team who are the A players thinking that they're getting out from any sort of change or additional work. But What this really is doing, though, is it's changing the bell curve, right? It's changing how we look at performance as a whole. So, what we hear a lot when we talk to our customers in the industry is this pressure to grow, the pressure to innovate, and the pressure to keep costs down all at the same time. So, on top of all that, it's a regulated industry for financial services, so we have to work within the guardrails. What advice would you have for the leaders in the room and the future leaders in the room here on how to navigate change with all of the way that the world is evolving right now?
I mean, one of my big things is just keep ahead of it. I mean, I'm like big podcaster, big listen to your audiobooks, read everything. I try it. Like the other thing is like get pilots, try things, be in the forefront, because then people start to come to you to look at you, and then you become that expert in the room. So then nobody's worried when I recommend something, because they're like, oh yeah, she knows. Like that's where be the expert in the room, so that when you speak, and then speak their language, right? They don't want the details. They don't want know your details, like know them, have them in the back pocket, but they don't want to hear them. Got it. Well, but that's a reminder for me, because I want to tell them all the details.
So technology is bringing a great opportunity both to financial services and to more broadly, in this market. And it is really important to have a culture as well to, again, always be listening,
Yes.
always be learning about what's out there, and what, the art of the possible really can be, with keeping that goal in mind that you set up, the organizational why you are doing some of this change. So, Kathi-Lyn, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was a great session. Really appreciate it. Hopefully, if anyone here wants to grab a quick question and answer with Kathi-Lyn, please just stay out of the way when it comes time to happy hour. But just kidding. Thank you.
Thank you.